It seems basically everyone is capable of making Elder Scrolls games other than Bethesda. A different studio remade Oblivion, modders are remaking Oblivion, and Morrowind, and Skyrim, and basically everything else, and a new TES game in the form of the infamous TES 6 is, let's face it, not coming out, and will likely be absolute buns when it actually does come out. Heck man, I could probably learn how to code, then learn Japanese, then do acid just like our good buddy Kirkbride, then program up TES 6 game, and it would still be better than whatever straight up poison the gang is brewing up over at Todd's Diddy Dungeon. So what will Bethesda do in the decade between games to make enough money to keep the lights on? Well, firstly, of course, they can keep milking the MMO audience with microtransactions, but other than that, they can, of course, remaster Morrowind, yippee! Or they could make an Elder Scrolls TV show since the Fallout 1 did so well. You guys have no idea the depths of depravity I would sink to in order to convince Blood Mauer to greenlight that show. Gonna make Crassius Curio look like the Wizard of Oz. Man, who's the Buddha? I don't know. Anyway, don't worry, I know what you're thinking. Didn't they explicitly go on record saying multiple times that they probably would not remaster Morrowind? And yeah, they did that, but at the same time, the Oblivion remaster made an absolute bag, and they were willing to shadow drop it, and you can only remaster the old Fallouts so many times before you run out of options, and let's face it, they're not touching Daggerfall, so who am I kidding? It's Bethesda. They're gonna remaster the same game 10 games in a row. It's probably just going to be Fallout 3 for the next 5 years, but we can always dream, which is why we have this wish list. But remember, it's the least delusional one, so I'm not going to make any big requests. I will have a lightning round at the end of stuff I'd love to see added. Sorry, allow me to pop my knuckles real quick. This leads me to my first wish list item, and as stated, we're trying to be as non-delusional as possible, which is why my first wish is don't. Just don't remaster Morrowind, please. Not only because they said they don't wanna, but because we flat out just do not need a remaster. Morrowind is a modding titan. Honestly, I'd argue even more than the other TES games. Well, not in terms of downloads, but in terms of epic quality and dedication. But projects like Tamriel changed the fundamental scope of the game so drastically that honestly, I'd hate to see a remaster take players away from the objectively cooler and better made projects than whatever the remaster can give. Also, because I don't really trust Bethesda to do a good job, even if they toss most of the heavy lifting to a different studio like they did for Oblivion. Morrowind is just a harder game to remaster with more ways to get messed up since its mechanics are a tad more controversial and dated when it comes to modern audiences. Speaking of modern audiences though, my second wishlist item is what I believe to be simply genius. Give us a combat system toggle. Let's face it, other than maybe the movement speed, Morrowind's hardest sell to Sky Babies. Okay, who am I kidding? Sky Babies are like 25 years old at this point. Okay, Morrowind's hardest sell to youngins is probably its dice roll combat system that can be a tad tricky to get at first. However, removing this mechanic in favor of Skyrim-style impact system I think isn't the smartest plan either. My proposal? Marriage. Just kidding. Except you, Kyle. Marry me. Hopefully I gave some random guy named Kyle butterflies. My bad, gang. I'm getting lost in the sauce. My proposal? Combat system toggle. Let me tick a setting. Simple as that. Either base damage off the original or polished up original system of rolling, skills, damage types, etc. And for those who don't want to deal with that as much, let them toggle on a system for a more wave your hammer at the enemy 100 times and hit every attack Skyrim-y sort of vibe. Just call it Legacy Combat Toggle or something like that. Boom. Best of both worlds. Except like any good FromSoft player, I will judge your entire run and say it's invalid and you're a fake fan if you use the new combat, because unarmed naked Khajiit monk who just drank 300 skooma and still misses every attack is really the only true way to play this game. Either that or a Daedric armored Dunmer Gigachad who's centuries too old to realize that half the words he calls his fellow NPCs are actually rather offensive in this third era that we find ourselves in now. Which, speaking of Morrowind's dice roll combat, I just want to go on record saying people will whine about it and then play Baldur's Gate and be like, oh wow, it's so fun to roll dice. So clearly you guys like rolling dice in combat. Stop whining. Now to the next mechanic I teased like the promiscuous little gremlin I am, movement speed. Simply, to quote the Costco CEO that one time, if you raise the speed of that effing Morrowind movement system, I will frickin' kill you! Morrowind's map is balanced around a certain movement speed, and the perceived scale of the map and sense of exploration will get absolutely kneecapped when you start messing with it, so either keep it the same or scale the map distance up enough to keep things even. Alrighty game man, maybe even make every road just like 20% longer. That way we don't distort travel time while still making the players feel faster, or maybe just make the running animation look less sluggish because it actually looks like I'm walking through invisible honey right now, other than actually changing the raw speed amount. Nextly, censorship. Now, I know this sounds like super scary when I phrase it like that, but it's not that deep. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but Oblivion Remastered did have a couple subtle but real censorships for armor designs and whatnot, and Morrowind has a tad more iffy things if you poke around a bit. So, by golly, bro, Morrowind is good because it's weird. If they tone down even a single inch of that rod, the lusty are going. So, whoa, a single inch of my weird, goofy, cooked lore or design, I will unleash an IRL Dagoth blight in Todd Howard's bedroom. And no, I'm not talking about the freaking hentai virus or whatever it's called. Anyway, along similar lines to those, I was gonna have a section talking about bringing back an old writer or two to make sure any new content doesn't get botched by the goofballs writing current Bethesda games, but then I remembered that if we even get some sort of Morrowind remake, the odds of any sort of new content being added, especially written content, is so low, and it's probably generated if they do. I mean, the Oblivion remaster hasn't even been updated in months, let alone any sort of DLC or anything to go with it, so I highly doubt new content in any variety would be added, other than maybe a small pre-order bonus. But Morrowind doesn't even have horses, so you couldn't make it horse armor. Okay, all my points so far have more so been damage control on Morrowind's aspects that shouldn't be fixed or touched up, but what about weaknesses that I actually think should maybe get a teensy overhaul? Let's start with the gameplay one. First and foremost, stealth. Aside from the obvious bugs and glitches, etc. that flat out just need to get fixed if they ever remade it, stealth is just kind of hard to use, and it's just one of those more dated aspects in my opinion of the game. I wouldn't mind seeing a little touch up, maybe some line of sight, some more dynamic NPCs, since, you know, we can probably assume NPCs would be a little bit more reactive than they were in OG Morrowind anyway, since we have the tech for it. So, you know, maybe not an entirely brand new system, but something a little spicier. Speaking of NPCs, I guess, fully voice the game is a pretty other, realistic-ish goal to have for Morrowind. This one's a taller order because, you know, you'd have to actually pay people, which I'm sure Bethesda does not want to do, but I also have a hard time seeing how a remastered Morrowind that still makes you read the dialogue would go. I'm not at all trying to say it's a bad feature to have less voice acting and make you read. I just don't think they'd stick with it if they end up making the game, because we're all just too brain rotted to not have people tell stuff to us. So this one's a bit neutral for me, because personally I wouldn't really mind it either way. Or again, maybe just adding a dialogue toggle between legacy and voice acted so you can choose. Let's be real though, if you can cut costs, you're probably going to if you're a Bethesda exec, so we'd maybe get 5 voice actors top. I already have more voices than that in my head even after I take out the mommy ASMR headphones from my ears, so honestly we could just skip voice acting and it wouldn't even be a huge deal. And heaven knows modders would add it in somehow 20 seconds after the game comes out. Another thing I'd really like to see touched up from the base game is something that I don't see mentioned terribly often when we're discussing Morrowind's weak points, but something I'd really love to see is just a bit of a terrain overhaul. Not the actual map layout or anything, but of course we don't need to change any locations of the POIs. But Morrowind does have a pretty 3D sphere tool just kind of spamming, sculpting the terrain. That does just make it feel a little bit artificial or underwhelming at times. If we could get jaggeder peaks, taller hills, smoother mountains, or I mixed those up, but you know, just a bit more ground cover, anything like that, I think it would really help the immersion factor, because I'm gonna be real, some areas in the game do just feel like a bunch of balls stacked on top of each other. Hey, oh. Hey now, hey, wake up, don't get distracted, bud, you zesty, it's not those kind of balls, though, I don't fault you, it's low-key valid. But speaking of things I begrudgingly admit could be better in Morrowind, lockpicking. Now you gotta hear me out on this one, I will die to defend Morrowind's dice roll mechanics literally forever until I die. However, it should have a minigame. Not because dice rolls are bad or because minigames are good, but because lockpicking minigames in TES games are just so goated that we sorta just obligatorily need to add one, and they're also just kind of fun. Of course, still let your security skill and your lockpick quality and all that kind of stuff matter, but tie it into a fun little minigame, because why not? And as with most of my proposed changes, give a legacy option that just lets you have the unchanged original mechanic, so you can toggle it back and forth if you're a crazy boomer who hates new things. But who am I kidding? If this game ever comes out, Bethesda will just let modders add in the legacy options on their own for free. Speaking of free, like the video, subscribe if you want to make my day much better, but it's not like I have cameras in your walls monitoring if you do or not. If you see a blinking red light behind you, just ignore it. I'm not watching. but I am watching my subscriber count, and every time it goes up even by 1, I get a little smile on my face. So if you want to make me smile, hit that subscribe button. Anyway, now I want to do a quick lightning round of stuff that's definitely delusional and never happening, but I just want to get them off my chest anyway. So let's just really quickly fire. I would love to see player homes, joining the 6th house as an alternate storyline, new story DLCs and maybe locations if they get the money and the player base for it, maybe marriage, dare I say a perk system, and of course new explorable land masses. But yeah, I'll lay down the skooma now because it's literally more likely someone gives me some rare Yu-Gi-Oh cards and a slobby tobby in the middle of a Walmart supercenter than any of that coming true. Did that feel hyper specific? Yeah, how about you mind your own dang business? And if I can make one more unrealistic request, give Dagoth their absolutely gravity bending planet orbiting quadruples E4th while breakingly huge yams, please. For no other reason than I wanted an excuse to say that sentence. At this point in the wish list, I do want to step back a bit though and just ask an important question. What would Morrowind Remaster actually bring to the table? What value could it possibly have above the original? Because I seriously just do not think there's any reasons that they should, except there's 2, okay? There is 2 that this game should exist in any capacity. 1, flat out graphical fidelity. I mean, come on, man. Who wouldn't want to explore Morrowind with DLSS 7, RTX 670, poob, slop, gigaflopper, terabyte RAM, super frame gen, am I right? It would be gorgeous and probably run like absolute crap, but it would be gorgeous. And secondly, it would make Morrowind a bit more relevant to new audiences, but honestly, that second reason is almost a net zero since I sort of like Morrowind's semi-niche status. Call me a gatekeeper, but I don't want normies ruining the objectively best game of all time. Okay, it's tied for first with like 2 other games, but let's be real, man. Say what you will about ESO. Okay, this is a total, well, okay, medium squirrel, but say what you will about ESO, but the Morrowind expansion to that game was honestly a really good revitalization of Vardenfell's setting, and I honestly think if you need a new gen experience from Morrowind, that basically gives you everything you could want in a pseudo remaster kind of flavor, so we really probably don't need a Morrowind remaster if ESO kinda sorta did it for us already. So, should it exist? Honestly, probably not. I doubt that's the reasoning Bethesda uses to justify not doing it, though. Given some recent interviews, I don't even think Bethesda knows people still play Morrowind. They legitimately all went into some sort of cryo-sleep during Starfield's development and woke up 8 years later with half their brains eaten out by some Daedric entity. Or maybe all their brains just got beamed away to the same place that Dwemer went, who knows? And reasons against a Morrowind remaster instead of for it, well, other than fear of it just getting butchered, it just has nothing to offer in face of, I think, the greatest modding community of all time. As mentioned before, Tamriel Rebuilt's existence just overshadows anything Bethesda could ever dream of creating nowadays, let alone in a cash grab remaster as opposed to a game they actually try on. Though again, games they try on haven't been all that great lately either, so maybe the ones they don't try on accidentally turn out better somehow. Despite all of my naysaying and negativity, I do seriously can't help but wish that it does come out still. Not because I like it more than the OG, not because I think it'll be all that great, but because I just can't help but want more Morrowind in the world. That like month period of all the Oblivion memes coming back and all those fun memories from the remaster are honestly worth just a goofy little remaster because it's fun to just see the internet, remember something old exists, have a lot of fun with it, and then kind of move on because, you know, stuff moves on quick. It was fun for at least a month. And even if it just brings more merch or something in, like, come on, man, let me do more Morrowind, I beg you. I would literally rather replay Morrowind with Amnesia than spend a no questions asked tonight with Lucy from Cyberpunk Edgerunners and an after party from Sanguine himself, because that experience is literally better than anything you could possibly have in this world. Except maybe a 5-piece tender combo at Popeyes. Really, all this video made me realize is that I just want to play more Morrowind. I've been experiencing a lot of it through artwork and reading and inspiration as I've been writing a novel inspired by it, but it's been like 7 whole months since I've actually booted up Morrowind, though I did make a girl play it with me for like 3 hours the other day. She chose an Argonian maid with the Atronak birth sign, which, wow, what a way to start that game if you have no idea what you're doing. Speaking of videos about things, consider donating or becoming a channel member because I'm trying to justify buying the original Morrowind lore book / guidebook that came with the OG game, so I can make a video going through it and looking at all the cool pictures and cool lore. Only issue is it's like multiple months of channel revenue worth, so any dollar you can spare is a day sooner we get to have that video done. Speaking of channel members, thank you members, especially higher tier member Frog Wizard, the absolute goat. Now answer this question so you can be at the end of the next video like these people who commented last time. What's your favorite environment, biome, whatever? Mine's a canyony sort of desert. I love that kind of thing. Fellas, just remember, never ask a Nord the race of their wife, and just say no to Crassius Curio if he asks you to do anything lewd. Taco out, talk out.
How can you kill a god? What a grand and intoxicating innocence. I'm a god. How can you kill a god?